All right, welcome back. We have, let's talk about the Koreans. All right, unclassified for official use only. All right, you never know what you're gonna get. Right? Yeah. So, man, as I get older, I mean, you can't really see my eyes. I'll show you my eyes. I'm over here like this. Like that's gonna help me read it better. I'm what I can't see anything when it's close. It gotta be kind of far away. I can read it when it's like this far, but when it's here, no way, can't see anything. A handbook to prepare forces for the complex operational environment of Korea Peninsula through increased awareness of near-peer capabilities and tactics to migrate the threat posed by the People's Republic of North Korea. Now that is a handful. 3 years ago, official use only. This is how, if we're ever gonna go to battle. Wait a minute. Okay. Um, I was kind of being, um, I was being a smartass, but no, I shouldn't be a smartass because it kind of says U.S. Army Asymmetric Warfare Group. So a disclaimer is saying the information contained herein is not current U.S. doctrine or policy and is not meant to supersede doctrine, commanders, guidance, or established unit standard operation procedures. Examine and use the information in light of your mission, the operation environment, the law of armed conflict, and other situational factors. So before we go to war, we have to think about all that. So what do we have in this beautiful handbook? I seen pictures, so we're going to the wow. So yeah, this is a super interesting book. Um, it's just the rise of the Kim dynasty. Kim the second Song was a Korean exile serving as a guerrilla fighter and commander, fighting against the Imperial Japanese Army in China during the 1930s. He gained fame for his exploits in Manchuria, and a cult of personality began to develop. While tales of his exploits, as told by his followers, may be considered to be slightly overblown by most, historian Bruce Cummings pointed out that Japanese officers from Kwantung Army had attested to his fame as a resistance figure. Kim returned to Korea on 19 on the September 19th, 1945, after 25 years in exile. In December 1945, the Soviets installed Kim as a chairman of the Korean Communist Party, though he was still considered to be a subordinate to the Soviet commanding general in Korea, General Terenty Shtykov. This would not change until Chinese intervention in the Korean War. In an effort to consolidate his power and solidify control of the Korean arm of the Communist Party, Kim forms the Korean People's Army in September 1948. Initially, it was believed that the Korean War was a Soviet initiative to test the resolve of the United States, but historians now believe that DPRKs, which is the Democratic Republic or whatever, which is, I can't see it, whatever. Decision to invade the RLK was a Kim initiative, initially not supported by the Soviet Union. After the Korean War and for the next several decades, the DPRK embarked on reconstructive effort to rebuild the devastated economy. All industries was owned by the state, agriculture was collectivized, and the economy focused heavily on arms production. In 1980, Kim Jong II, as Politburo Standing Committee member and heir to his supreme leadership, effectively laying the foundation for the Kim dynasty. That's, I mean, this book got. I just wanted to read that, kind of see how it got into power. I didn't know it was about the Soviets. Now it makes sense. The fall of the Soviet War. They don't really have anyone else, but that's very interesting. So it's like there's different parts of this book. So it talks about the restricted and the unforgiving terrain of Korea. So with this one, I'll probably, because it's like a lot of it's very interesting, right? So, excuse me. So I was like, wow, the global, wow. So like their global, like this is the dense urban terrain. The U.S. Census Bureau defines a minimum threshold to be considered urban as 50,000 or more, with a minimum threshold of 1,000 per square foot, but does not define anything beyond the dictionary. Global property trends and likely agency. This is Army forces must plan to conduct urban operations in the cities of. So over half the world's population live in urban areas right now. That's up from 30% in the 50s. And they're saying that by the 1950 or the 2050s, 66%, right? So why does that matter? It's mattering because we have to think of the density that these like when fighting. I mean, because remember, this is a war. This is a book on like basically a general's book. It's not for us as a general pop, right? As it's unclassified for official use only. I just happen to have it. It's talking about warfare. So the density of cities and how we're becoming more dense, it's going to change the whole way that we fight. We kind of see how that changed in the conflict up to 2000s, right? With after September 11th, how we were going more door to door, breaking down things and all that kind of good stuff, opposed to in the old schools where you'd have 1,000 people over here, 1,000 people over here, and they just kind of run together, right? That warfare is obsolete. So talking about the density of the cities and the density of everything, it's really interesting. Oh wow. All right. I've already talked too much. This book's really interesting. It's a little guy, but it's jam packed with valuable information. Right? It's based off of Korea, but you can just kind of use the information and for your own self. I don't really know where this information is going to be used on a day-to-day basis because I personally don't have an army, right? But it's interesting nonetheless.